Is David Beckham caught in a tug-of-war between the King and Prince Harry? What's been going on behind the scenes of the royal trip to Kenya? And are the King and Queen taking on too much? We've got another great show lined up for you today. Hello and welcome to Palace Confidential. I'm Jo Elvin, and back this week, we're very excited, is the Daily Mail's star columnist, Sarah Vine, and back and tanned to perfection from his holiday, the paper's diary editor, Richard Eden. Welcome to you both. Now, just a little reminder that if you enjoy our show, please like and subscribe to our free channel to be reminded whenever a new episode arrives, then you won't miss a thing. Now, if you want to know where the royals are in the world, all you have to do is find out where our own Rebecca English is. She's very rarely far away, and this week, funnily enough, she's in Kenya, covering the visit of King Charles and Queen Camilla, and she sent us this report.
Since he acceded to the throne, His Majesty has undertaken 2 state visits, but this, his third, really feels like a royal tour of old. We flew out with their Majesties from RAF Brize Norton in Oxfordshire on Monday on the official government Voyager. Since they've landed in Kenya, they have hit the ground running, and in all will be packing in over 23 engagements in 4 days. Now today you will have probably noticed from my rather glamorous background, which is slightly more exciting than the normal anodyne hotel rooms I film from, that the action has moved to the coastal city of Mombasa, where they're going to be highlighting the close links between the British and Kenyan military. King Charles will be going to a local beach to see a youth clear-up project, and I'm told he's going to be presented with a really unusual gift, which is a throne made out of recycled flip-flops to highlight the work they're doing here about removing plastics from the oceans. The trip concludes tomorrow, Friday, with more serious subject matter, which is talking about kind of interfaith harmony, of which Kenya is a leading example in the region. Yesterday the programme was much more relaxed, designed to allow their Majesties to meet as many Kenyan people as possible and to highlight the incredible success story within Africa that this nation has become. I was with Queen Camilla at the Brook Donkey Sanctuary in Nairobi, which is a long-standing charitable patronage of hers. And there were a few unexpected things along the way. She was asked to don a Maasai ceremonial cape and take part in some dancing. And she looked at me, gave a grin, and very much got stuck in. And there was another funny moment where I pointed out to the Queen that there were some incredible local craft stalls which I had been catching up on a bit of Christmas shopping before she arrived at. And she was like, right, I must have a look at these, and went round and bought so much local produce that she actually ran out of cash. And her private secretary had to go around basically kind of writing out royal IOUs and making sure that the money was transferred to them via a bank. The best part of the day, however, had to be their visit to the Sheldrick Wildlife Sanctuary on the outskirts of the capital. They wanted, very keen to meet some of, obviously, the wildlife that Kenya is famed for, but see some of the conservation efforts on the ground. Queen Camilla was lucky enough to get the chance to bottle feed a baby elephant, while she and the King met with an orphaned baby rhino that gambled around their feet like a little puppy. And I have to say, it was one of the times I think I'm genuinely envious of their job as being a member of the royal family.
Our Rebecca English there. Stick around later for some more fascinating images of royal tours over the years. Before then, though, let's hear from the panel. Obviously, what does tend to dominate the news with these visits, we won't call them tours, is, Richard, there's often talk around the apologies and the reparations and so on that need to be, that are sort of like, you know, the unspoken thing in the room often, that this trip so far hasn't been dominated by those discussions like so many of them are.
No, I mean, this was a big story before they set off, because it was previewed that King Charles would be expressing regret for suffering that's happened in the past during the Empire and the days of the Mau Mau Rebellion, its suppression by the British. He didn't apologise, but he addressed that. But I think that's something that is sort of, you know, it was known he was going to do. I don't think it's dominated the tour. They've got on, they've been carrying out lots of engagements, and from everything I hear in Kenya, that hasn't been the focus of the trip from the Kenyan perspective at all.
Sarah, I think fans of the show will be really touched by the moment in the King's speech where he talks about Catherine and refers to her as his beloved daughter-in-law.
I know, that's very sweet, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think she's very everyone is very fond of Catherine. She's head girl, isn't she? Really, in the royal family, she can do no wrong.
She really can't. But Richard, however many engagements that Charles and Camilla are managing, this trip again highlights that we ask a lot of them at their age, because there'll also be a lot more visits to come, surely.
Yeah, I mean, as we know, when Queen Elizabeth, after she succeeded to the throne, she embarked on a 6-month tour with Prince Philip of all the Commonwealth and, left the children behind. Obviously, she was 25 when she became Queen. The King is 75 this month. Camilla's 76, and Camilla, famously doesn't enjoy flying, finds it hard work. So there won't be that many foreign visits. That's just a fact. And so I think there is a need. There are other members of the family will have to step in. There's been lots of talk about whether Catherine and William will go to Australia and New Zealand, perhaps.
They don't like going too far afield either, do they?
Well, I think they're happy to travel when asked, and they definitely will be asked. But we'll be seeing, I think, other members of the family embarking on these trips.
Yes, because Sarah, do you think that there's a mindfulness there that if they don't go where they are still head of state, it will be that fuel for Republican movements?
Well, I just think, if they're not present, what's the point? They do have to be there physically, don't they? And it is important for people who care about the monarchy to meet them, to see that they're involved, to see that they're taking an interest. I mean, their job, that is really their job, is to be present. And if they're not present, then, And I think Charles has always been quite an intellectual prince and now king. So he has he's got quite a wide bandwidth on this sort of stuff, but I just think at the end of the day you want to see them turn up and actually press the flesh. I think they're in pretty good nick for the vintage.
Well,
they do look after themselves.
Well, I was going to ask as well, what do you think these royal trips are like? Do you think they really do run them ragged? It's not like you're going to see the King and Queen standing around looking harassed, waiting for their baggage.
They're not waiting for a taxi. They're not. They're not having to. They're not. Everything is sort of smooth for them. In far as anything like that can be easy, it's the easiest it can possibly be. They literally do travel like royalty.
Yeah.
But I think Catherine and them doing stuff is important because they have that element of glamour. I mean, the thing about the King and Queen is that, fantastic as they are, they're not sort of in Catherine's league in terms of turning up and looking fabulous, are they? I mean, they don't have that stellar quality, I don't think. Or am I being mean?
Well, they're much older, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the difference between, me turning up and someone who's 25. I mean, obviously, they're going to look better. They're going to be more on trend. They're going to be a bit more sort of Instagrammable and TikTokable and all of that kind of stuff.
Don't sell yourself short.
Do you think, are they on TikTok?
No, not TikTok. We're on TikTok.
I'm not medically capable of being on TikTok. I'm
not
too
medically
old.
capable.
No, it's just like once you're over 30, you it's scientifically impossible
Joe
for you
is
to
on
understand
TikTok
it.
via the Daily Mail Rules account.
Oh, okay.
So do follow. Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. I mean, Richard, there are serious questions here, aren't there? It's not just the number of countries where they're the head of state. There's the question that always comes up of the number of patronages they have. You wrote about this in your newsletter this week.
Well, I just made the point that King Charles is not just monarch of the United Kingdom, he's also head of state of 14 Commonwealth realms. And as Sarah said, people of these countries would like to see their head of state. And if not, well, they definitely like to have a visit from another member of the royal family. And I think that they do need to expand. The slimmed down monarchy is it's time, with no Harry and Meghan and no Prince Andrew, that the time for that has gone and they need to expand. So you might be unsurprised to learn that in my newsletter I've suggested that they bring in Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie. Well, I've been arguing for a while that I think they'd be a good addition, and I think they could be great, going on an overseas tour with one each perhaps.
Maybe the reason it hasn't happened is because they've just got zero interest and are avoiding that whole conversation.
I don't know. I think there's a slight problem with that. I mean, I love the princesses. I think they're actually rather lovely and sweet. But I mean, if you would slightly feel that you were getting the B team, wouldn't you? If you were.
But maybe if they built a profile, you wouldn't think that.
Okay. So yes. So if they could build a profile, but I think these places would like to have either the king or the queen or the prince and princess of Wales. I mean, those are the kind of crown jewels in the royal family.
Maybe we need to start deploying that move of despots and just have lookalikes.
Well, I'm just wondering about the children. I mean, do they really need to be in school? No.
We need.
I mean, it's not like they need to get jobs. So
we need to be realistic, don't we? The king's been on the throne for 14 months, hasn't visited any of these Commonwealth realms yet. So if he's not going to, then let someone else go.
Well, I think partly that's to do just with organisation, because these trips you have to be planned a couple of years ahead, don't they? So obviously, he's only been on the throne for 14 months, so there will naturally be a hiatus before people can get trips in place and stuff. So I imagine that his frequency of travel will increase as that sort of stuff starts to roll forward, no? I mean, surely.
Well, let's hope so.
I mean, there wouldn't have been any plans for him to visit anywhere, really, while the Queen was still alive, would there have been? Or
I think the plan is to share out the visits more, though, with other senior members of the royal family.
Well, come on, get your fingers out, Beatrice and Eugenie. You heard it from Richard.
And there's also the issue of the patronages, because, not only the Queen, but Prince Philip, Prince Andrew, they were patron of scores of charities who are expecting a royal patron. They're still, the Royal Society of this, the Royal Association, and that hasn't been decided yet. But the royal family need to sit down and think, are we going to distribute all these different patronages, or are they going to lose them and not have a royal patron, which they'd be very upset. But we have a kind of clash about the future of the monarchy, because William and Catherine's view of the monarchy in the future is very much being involved with a smaller number of charities and organisations and doing a lot, taking a very active role, rather than just having your name on the headed paper, as would be the case for a lot of those organisations of which Queen Elizabeth or Prince Philip were patron. So they really do need to sort of sit down and think, what do we want to do, and get on with it.
The patronages expired. Do they have like a sort of 5-year limit or something?
No, so they're still the Royal Association.
So they just built up an awful lot over the years, and they just need to strip them back a little bit.
They need to decide if they will have a new royal patron.
Oh, and as a charity boss, let me tell you, you don't want that letter saying.
No.
We've decided
we're no longer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's awful.
Exactly. Yeah. So it is a big issue for a lot of organisations.
Lots more to come today, including the question of Prince Harry, the Beckhams and the King. But first, let's hear some of your comments from last week's special, celebrating a little early, I admit, Charles' 75th birthday. Jan Williams writes, the King, like a lot of us, seems to have found his footing in later years. He seems comfortable with who he is. And he's going to be around a while, says Oz Jumperman. It's crazy that so many people think Charles is an interim king who will have a short reign. At 75, with parents who both lived into their high 90s and his healthy lifestyle, he could easily be on the throne for more than 20 years. Elaine Bynes, meanwhile, is pleased that Camilla will be by his side. I wasn't exactly thrilled when Camilla became Charles's wife, but over the years there is no denying I have gained enormous respect for her. I enjoy books, and clearly reading is close to Camilla's heart. She's made Charles extremely happy, and Catherine, well, quite simply a godsend. The UK and Commonwealth are lucky to have such wonderful, genuine, caring figureheads, and I, for one, will be eternally grateful. Now, a reminder that if you didn't catch last week's show, head back after this to watch it. Let's bring back my panel now. Now, Richard, before we went off, we saw pictures of the King with David Beckham, and there's the suggestion that the Beckhams' previous closeness to our friends in Montecito, Harry and Meghan, may be no more.
Yes, I mean, David Beckham is an old friend of Prince Harry, really, but there does seem to be a sort of distance coming between them, even though they both live now in America. David Beckham he owns a football club in Florida. Obviously, Harry and Meghan are in California, but they don't seem to see each other much these days. And now there's the suggestion that King Charles wants David Beckham to become involved with his old charity empire, the Prince's Foundation. And what's happened there was, it was a huge, sprawling empire, used to be run by King Charles's right-hand man, Michael Fawcett. He resigned there was a bit of a scandal about honours, cash for honours, because there were donations from wealthy figures, from Saudi Arabia and so forth, and then in one case, one later received an honour, and that caused a bit of a scandal. So there's the question of what happens now with that charity empire. And our former colleague Kate Mancy was reporting that they plan to, King Charles wants to rejuvenate it by getting figures such as David Beckham involved, give it a new lease of life.
It's fascinating. That's in a piece for anyone who wants to read it on the Mail Online's Royal channel this week. But Sarah, do you think it's perhaps that it shows that for people like the Beckhams or David Beckham, that royalty beats non-royalty?
Well, I don't know. I mean, were the Beckhams ever really friends with Harry and Meghan, or was it just one of those things where they just got together because they were two famous couples in a famous place?
I was shocked, I tell you, when I realised after that wedding that actually they didn't really know Oprah Winfrey.
No,
so who knows?
They just, exactly. It's famous people tend to stick with famous people because, I don't know, they have that in common. But I also think there's an element, isn't there a question here about David Beckham not having a knighthood, wanting a knighthood, so therefore maybe sorry,
that's a bit cynical.
Very cynical interpretation.
Yes.
But is it? Wouldn't it be fantastic if he had a leading role in a charity, and then look, better give him a knighthood.
And certainly Harry won't be able to help him much on that front.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
Yes.
Well, he is kind of, a national treasure.
I don't know whether if you're choosing between the person who can give you a knighthood and the person who can't give you a knighthood. I don't know. If you want a knighthood, you might choose the person who can give you a knighthood.
True. I mean, that is one of the problems Harry and Meghan face, that they have lost a bit of their cachet. They don't have many baubles to hand out.
No.
Did they ever though?
Well, they would have done it. Presumably, if they'd stayed within the fold, they would have had some influence. But I mean, I don't suppose Harry has a lot of influence over his father anymore, other than annoying him.
That is fair to say, yeah.
Quite a lot.
Do you think this is more we were talking earlier about how stretched the King and Queen might become. Is this sort of another look at how he might be able to step back from some of his charitable obligations, bringing in a Beckham figure to the Prince's Foundation?
Well, I think that would be the idea, that the charities can continue without him being so directly involved. Obviously, before the King was very hands-on, very involved, and he might have thought that it would have been nice to have handed it over to Prince William. But I don't think William wanted that. He's got his own projects.
Give it to Prince David.
His own organisations. Yeah. And so, if people like David Beckham or Idris Elba, people like that.
I mean, Victoria and David Beckham did get married in thrones, and their house was known as Buckingham Palace.
They did.
So, maybe there's a synergy there.
It's like the royals thinking if you can't beat them.
But also, seriously, the Beckhams are very good at publicity. We saw that documentary that they did recently, which was an absolute sort of, brilliant PR exercise.
And they're good ambassadors for Britain.
And they're good ambassadors for Britain, and they're pretty good at what they do. So
But things that people seem to agree on about the King, we know he's stubborn. And we also know that he probably feels he helped make a lot of these charities a success. So would he be persuaded to step back?
Well, I think it's a bit like his old, biscuits. He does the Duchy originals. He eventually was happy to hand that over to Waitrose, a supermarket chain, and they carried on producing them and making donations to his charity. So it can be a bit like that, where yes, it's a sort of hands-off arrangement.
But you forget, all his life for 50 years, that's what he's done because he hasn't been king. So that was how he was really making good use of his time as the Prince of Wales. So these were all things that he set up in order to have meaning and purpose in his life, and he did it absolutely brilliantly. But now he's king, so that was his previous life. So to an extent, he's got to park that. It's like he's been promoted, basically. So now somebody else has to do the job that he did for 50 years. There
would be a bit of irony, though, if instead of, using his son, who's now based in America, he goes to another, American expatriate, essentially, in David Beckham, to get him involved in his charity.
Maybe that Harry will need a job soon, because I don't know how long Netflix are going to pay him for doing... What was it they said in that cartoon? In Family Guy, here's your cheque from Netflix for no one knows what.
So what you think King Charles might give him a job at his charity?
Can I have one of those jobs? Just give me money for some reason.
Maybe that would be a way of getting Harry back into the fold. He could earn his way back.
Interesting idea. I'm not sure he would jump at it. But.
You know, Dutchie, my husband, teased me because when I first got to this country as an Australian, I thought it was Duchy, and he still teases me about calling them Duchy originals. Sounds a bit too much like something else. Yeah.
Duchy originals.
Anyway, Richard, moving on swiftly. A quick one now on a story that will be welcome, I think, to some royal watchers. One of the stars of the coronation has a big new job.
Yes, this is Lieutenant Colonel, as he now is, Johnny Thompson, known to lots of our viewers perhaps as Major Johnny. He's the equerry.
He's major.
Is the word
He's major.
He's very popular. Yeah. He's become very popular.
Not as popular as you, though.
He is valued by the King and Queen, clearly, and he's been promoted now to senior equerry, which is great. You know, it's a deserved promotion for Major Johnny, but there is a downside, I'm afraid. The downside is that this new role means he's going to be...
More clothes.
No, he's going to be much more behind the scenes. So we may be seeing less of him, which won't go down well, particularly as he is still, you know, a member of this Scottish regiment, so he's often wears his kilt. But now he'll be stuck in some office, you know, planning future tours and stuff. So while it's very good that he's got this promotion, some of our viewers may be disappointed they'll be seeing less of him.
But they've still got you to look forward to seeing, Richard, so don't worry. Now, as promised, let's take a closer look at some of the royal family's visits to Africa over the years. That's right, it's montage time. Fascinating look at some historic trips there. Let us know your thoughts below. And as always, if you enjoy our content, do remember to like and subscribe. It's free, and that way you never need to miss another episode. Join us next week where we'll have a new look studio to share with you. All will be revealed next Thursday. Thanks to my guests Sarah and Richard, and as always to you for watching. Bye for now.